Master manipulator, noun, a person who is skilled at influencing others to behave or think in a certain way for their own benefit or to achieve a particular goal. The media recently got hold of more than 100,000 leaked WhatsApp messages involving former British Health Secretary Matt Hancock, which reveal private conversations between several senior politicians and officials, providing a somewhat disturbing, albeit unsurprising look into the way the UK government operated at the height of the pandemic. It should be noted that Australia's ABC has not touched this story. The last thing they published regarding Matt Hancock was back in November last year, regarding his suspension over a reality TV show appearance. However, the BBC decided to run the story. Matt Hancock leaked messages suggest plan to frighten public. In one exchange between Mr Hancock and media advisor Damon Poole in the run-up to Christmas 2020, 5 days before the government scrapped plans to relax rules for many over Christmas, the former health secretary wrote, "We frightened the pants off everyone with the new strain." The advisor responds, "Yep, that's what will get proper behaviour change." The minister then asks, "When do we deploy the new variant?" Mr Hancock announced the new variant to the public the following day. In another exchange, the head of the civil service, Simon Case, suggested the fear-guilt factor was vital to the government's messaging. In a conversation from January 2021, when lockdown measures were in place, Mr Hancock is seen discussing possible changes with Mr Case. Mr Case warns against making small changes to the rules as looking ridiculous. He talks about ramping up messaging, adding the fear-guilt factor was vital. In a conversation with Mr Case from July 2020, he wrote, "We need to tell people that if they want to save the economy and protect the NHS, then they need to follow the rules, and we may need to tighten the rules. You can now have 6 people from different households indoors. Do people really understand that, and are they observing it?" The exchange came 1 month after the Prime Minister broke the rules himself. Mr Johnson, his wife Carrie, and the then Chancellor Rishi Sunak all received 1 fine each for attending a birthday party thrown in the ex-PM's honour in June 2020. According to The Telegraph, these measures to force compliance with COVID rules were internally known as Project Fear. One commenter on one of my posts wrote something I found quite telling. "It's kind of funny and kind of sad that almost all domestic violence victims I know didn't fall for it. Almost like we knew instantly what it feels like to be manipulated and demoralised." Which also made me think of the government as an abusive partner that I can't leave. Here in Australia, we were faced with daily press conferences by state premiers, chief health officers and the like, telling us what we needed to be concerned about. For example, here in Queensland, Chief Health Officer Dr John Gerard would tell us daily why we needed to worry in no uncertain terms. This is him from 5th of April 2022.
The virus is not going to go away. The virus is not going to go away. You will be exposed to this virus sometime during the course of this year.
And of course, then he would follow up with the simple solution, provided to you, of course, by the government.
And as I've said before, and I cannot overstress this, vaccination will remain the key going forward. As our restrictions are gradually lifted, it will be the vaccination that will be protecting us all from this disease. And it is the vaccine that will protect you. And for adults, that means 3 doses of vaccine, not 2 doses. And if you're in certain groups over the age of 65, or a First Nations person over the age of 50, or immunosuppressed, a 4th dose to protect you in the coming months. So thank you very much. I'll hand over to the Minister. Thank you.
And again, we are grateful to all Queenslanders. Our focus now is on vaccinations. First and foremost, getting your boosters, whether it's your 3rd or your 4th vaccine. If you are due, please get that vaccine. And to parents, please get your children vaccinated, particularly those 5 to 11-year-olds that are still under 50%. Get your children vaccinated, and also to get your booster and make sure you're up to date with your vaccinations.
As I said, this was a daily occurrence bombarding our screens. Whatever you think of ABC journalist Lee Sales, I quite enjoyed this article where she comments on the nature of news and experts throughout the pandemic. She said, I think we need to reconsider the nature of news, and I don't have any easy answers for this, but I think the traditional model of the news is contributing to the mental health crisis in this country. The nature of news is that it emphasises the aberration or the rare occurrence over the most likely outcome. So, for example, 200 helicopters fly safely on any given day, and the one that crashes makes the news. That was fine back in the days when people saw one TV news bulletin per day, or there was one daily newspaper. But now with social media and 24/7 news, you might see 25 references per day to that helicopter, complete with detailed images. I know from research I did for my book, Any Ordinary Day, that to the human brain, that feels like 25 helicopters crashed, not one. I believe that the news is making people fear things they don't need to be fearful of. It gives people a skewed sense of what is actually dangerous in life. Let me give you an example. 3,747 Australians died of catastrophic falls in 2021, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. By contrast, COVID deaths were 1,122. I guarantee the possibility of a fatal fall is not front of mind for most people, even though it is one of the most common causes of death in Australia. But if every single day the media started covering the 10 people who had died in falls, and we had their families crying on TV and calling for action, and we had experts going, we have to do something about all the people dying from accidental falls, I'm sure it would spark mass public anxiety. People would start thinking they were at significant personal risk of dying from a fall, and suddenly we'd be seeing politicians announce non-slip floor mats are mandatory everywhere, and there would be new regulations for shoe soles and so on. The other thing that I think causes the public unnecessary anxiety is the overemphasis of doomsday predictions on the opinion of one so-called expert. It's the equivalent of crystal ball gazing, and we need to stop treating it as if it's news. Those kinds of stories are endemic. Housing prices set to fall 25% will scream the headline. Then you read on and the fortune telling is based on one person's opinion. The story will also neglect to mention that it's a 25% worst case scenario prediction off the back of a year of crazy 30% price rises. There's plenty to be anxious about in life without the unnecessary fear-mongering. Like I say, there are no easy answers to this, but we journalists need to think about it. Otherwise, people are going to increasingly turn their backs on the news media. I think that's a really good commentary. Let's see what Dr. John thinks.
And as I've said before, and I cannot overstress this, the virus is not going to go away. The virus is not going to go away. You will be exposed to this virus.